Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and in this Google Ads tutorial for 2020, you're going to learn how to put together your first profitable PPC campaign using Google Search Ads. Timestamp table of contents in the description. With that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So here is a little diagram we're going to be going through as we go through the Google Ads interface to help you understand the campaign that we're going to be setting up. We're actually going to set up one campaign with 3 different ad groups, and this is going to work if you're looking to generate leads, so your local services-based business, or you're an e-commerce based business and you're selling physical products online. So if you're in one of those 2 camps, this tutorial is for you. I'll also go through a quick method you can use to easily come up with great keywords. So the first step, of course, is setting up your account if you don't already have one. All you have to do is go to ads.google.com. You'll get to a page that looks something like this, and you'll just click Start Now. You'll sign in. Now, it is important that you use the Gmail address that you want to manage your Google accounts with here. If you've used any other Google account in the past that's connected to that Gmail address, you need to use a new one. So we'll go ahead and log in, and then it will ask you to essentially go through this kind of hand-holding process of setting up your account in First Campaign. You don't want to do that though. You want to go to the bottom here and say, yes, you are a professional marketer. Pretty much by watching this video or any other video here on YouTube, you're good to go. You can go ahead and switch to expert mode, and then you'll be presented with the standard new campaign creation page. So this is actually what you'll see if you are creating a new campaign, if you've already set up an account and you click that big blue plus button in your campaign interface. So however you got here, we're going to go ahead and select create a campaign without a goal, because I highly recommend putting both hands on the steering wheel, making sure that you control all of the settings as opposed to allowing Google to flip switches on and off for you and potentially spend more of your money than you actually need to. So we'll go ahead and click Create Campaign Without a Goal. And then of course, we're going to select Search and Website Visitors. It will ask for your website. This isn't required. They're just going to try and help you with keywords. But as you'll see when we get to creating your ad groups, you don't need Google's help finding your initial keywords. So we'll go ahead and click on Continue. We'll go ahead and give our campaign a name. I just like naming a very simple naming convention. Search, which is what you're targeting here. If you were doing YouTube or display, you'd put YouTube or display instead of search, and then whatever your offer is. So we're going to have one product for our entire campaign here. So whatever your product or service is, we'll go ahead and name it that. Then we'll come down here and we're going to uncheck display network. So we only want our ads to show up when someone physically goes to a search engine and types in whatever your product or service is, right? So we don't want our ads showing up on random websites. That's a completely different tutorial. Now you'll see another box here, include Google search partners. If you're spending less than $1,000 a month on your ads, go ahead and leave this checked. It's going to lower your cost per click, but it also means your ads are going to show up places other than Google search. You might see some other tutorials that say to always uncheck this, but I'm just trying to make sure that your budget stretches as far as possible and you get the most chances of success. So if you're over $1,000, go ahead and uncheck this. You don't need that cheaper traffic in here, but if you're under $1,000, go ahead and leave that checked. It'll just help your budget go a little further. It won't be as great traffic, but it's still going to be traffic that you're going to be able to monetize. So let's go ahead and go to more settings here. The only thing we really need to look at is your start and end dates. Now it's very important that you are keeping both hands on the wheel with your start and end date. So I recommend starting a day or 2 out just so you can make sure your website and everything else is good to go and there's no broken links anywhere. And then for the end date, go ahead and set it 2 weeks out. The reason that you want to do this is Google will just keep spending your money. So if anything happens, you get locked out of your account, you forget you're running something, God forbid, you go to the hospital for something, Google will just keep running the ads until the end of time and charging your credit card, right? So you really want to make sure that you set an end date. So no matter what happens in life, Google will at least stop spending your money after 2 weeks. Now, how much money they spend and how often you're billed is just going to be dependent upon how new your account is. Most of the time they have a threshold, like every $100 or $50, they're going to bill you. So we'll go ahead and skip these next 2 because those are advanced, and then we'll go down to our targeting and audiences. Now for locations, this is where I like to spend the majority of my time in these 3 settings. So we're just gonna go ahead and click on advanced search here, and you're going to want to add bulk locations. So here's some general rules of thumb. If you are targeting more than one country, you only need to have the names of the country, no more than 5. Ideally, you'd have one campaign for each country because really every country is different. I mean, even the US and Canada, we spell things differently. I got in trouble one time with a Canadian client because I was spelling things the way English people do in the US and the way English people do in Canada is apparently slightly different. So just keep that in mind, right? If you're targeting just one country though, then you're going to want to have all of the states, territories, or provinces in your campaign listed out here. If you're targeting a state, territory, or province, then you're going to want the counties, cities, or neighborhoods in that state, territory, or province. Same thing if you're just in one particular county, neighborhood, or city. And so hopefully that makes sense. Obviously, if you're targeting a country, you don't need to go get all of the zip codes. That's just crazy. So you don't need to get that detailed. The only time you would use zip codes is you're targeting a very small geographical area. Please do not ever use radius if you're a local business. Do the extra 10 or 15 minutes of work to get your zip code. So whatever that is, you're gonna go ahead and paste those in there. For this example, we're gonna target the United States. So I'm just going to drop in all of the states and go ahead and select target all. As you can see, all of the states are now highlighted and we're good to go. So the other thing you want to make sure you do is under location options, you want to switch this to people in or regularly in your targeted area. You'll see people in or who show interest in your targeted locations is what's automatically on. So this is very important if you are a local based business or if you're an e-commerce site and you're only shipping to one specific country. So you need people to actually be in the physical location. Now, obviously, if you're a hotel, then this wouldn't really be a big deal because you want people who are interested in visiting the location that you're targeting. But I digress, this isn't a tutorial for hotels, right? So you want to make sure that people are actually in the locations that you've chosen, not just interested in those locations that you've chosen. I know that's a little wordy, but hopefully it makes sense. Just make sure you check the second box here and save yourself some headaches. So now we go to languages. I typically leave languages alone unless we're running a campaign that's targeting a language in a country, state, or region or province that isn't the main language of that country, state, region, or province. So here I'm just gonna leave it at English, and then we'll go ahead and skip audiences because audiences is something that you're only going to want to use for display campaigns, not for search campaigns. Search campaigns are keywords every day, all day, always, unless you're doing remarketing. There's always some exception to the rule, right? So then we have budgeting and bidding. We're actually going to conversions, ad schedule, and ad rotation we'll get to in a moment. But first, let's start off with our budget. I recommend starting anywhere from $5, $10 to $20 a day. So here's some quick math to show you how much you'd be spending over the course of 2 weeks. And this will just really depend upon your budget. So remember, this is not going to be the only time you can run ads. So if you have a limited budget right now, you can run this campaign, you can find out which keywords and which ads are working, you can make your tweaks and then try it again when you have more money. So don't view this as, oh my gosh, this is the budget for the end of time, right? So actually what I would recommend doing is if you can, do $20 a day for 2 weeks, get all of that data really fast, and then you'll be able to know what keywords and what ads are performing well, and then you can go back and lower your daily bid. So we're just going to go ahead to go ahead and do $10 a day. Of course, Google's going to tell us, hey, it would be better if you did 20. And of course, Google's going to always tell you that it's better if you spend more money because they make more money. So remember that when you see recommendations like this, or you should increase your budget, they're just telling you should pay them more money. So let's go ahead and go to bidding. Here, you really want to make sure, and this is part of why at the very beginning we chose to go with the custom settings, because you want to have control over how your money is being spent. We're going to select a separate bidding strategy and click on manual cost per click. So what this is going to do is we're going to tell Google how much we're willing to pay. And of course, we're going to uncheck enhanced CPC. And again, Google's going to give us this warning that our campaign's going to suck because we're trying to control too many elements, right? But really what you want to do here is you really want to make sure that you use manual CPC for at least the 2 weeks before you enable enhanced. All enhanced is doing is it's trying to increase and decrease your bids to get you a better click-through rate or better conversions. But when you're just getting started, you don't have a baseline for clicks and you don't have a baseline for conversions. And so you don't want Google to spend a lot of money trying to figure out what works. You're going to get to what works a lot faster when you use manual CPC. Plus, you need some advanced conversion tracking on your site in order for enhanced CPC and cost per conversion to actually work. So now let's go ahead and we're going to skip conversions and ad schedule. That's not really important unless you're a local based business for ad schedule or you're actually picking up the phone. Then of course you don't want ads running when your store is not open or you're not actually picking up the phone. Ad rotation though, there's another place here. We need to make sure we click on do not optimize. So we want traffic to be evenly split between our ads so we know which ads actually working. This is another place Google is trying to take away control and say, hey, you know what? You don't have to worry about figuring out what ads work better. We're going to figure it out for you. They don't do a good job yet. So we're going to make sure we keep both hands on that steering wheel, and we're going to do something called an A/B split test between our two different ads. I'll get onto more on that when we actually create our ads. Then you also have the option for something called site link extensions or call out extensions. And these are some advanced things you can do with your ads. I'll quickly go over to a sample search so you can see. So you can see here, get 28% off Skechers or 30% off work shoes. And then at the bottom here, you can see men's Brooks running shoes, men's Adidas running shoes, Nike Asics. So these are examples of site link extensions. So these are things that Google will sometimes show in addition to your normal ad text. I'll link up in the cards in the description to a much longer Google Ads tutorial. I know there's actually a longer one, but actually goes through in detail how to set these up. These are not something you're going to be able to control. Google decides whether or not they show it. They're not really transparent on how they decide, so we're going to skip it for now, 80-20 the process. So we're going to skip these for now. You can always go back and add these later and apply these to all of your campaigns. So we'll go ahead and click on save and continue. And now it's actually time to put together our ad groups and decide what keywords we're going to target. So let's go ahead and go back to our diagram. You can see at the top, we've just completed putting together our campaign settings. And now we're at the ad group level where we are going to be deciding what our keywords are. Now, don't worry, I have a little cheat sheet for you here, whether you're doing lead generation for a local services-based business or you're doing e-commerce, so you're not going to have to do a bunch of keyword research. But before I get into what these keywords are, we do need to talk about the different types of keywords because Google actually has different types of keywords you can run, all the way from something called broad to exact. So all of this is doing is telling Google how specific or how close an actual search term needs to match the keyword. So for example, if we have here a exact match, and we're going to do this with brackets, you'll see in a moment, when we create an exact match keyword, let's say we're advertising mountain bikes. I like using that example a lot. Well, if we have our keyword mountain bikes for men, right? And we have exact match, someone has to exactly type in word for word that keyword in order for our ad to show up. Whereas if we're using phrase, broad, or broad modifier, some combination of those keywords has to show up in order for our ad to show up. So just think about it as broad as any search in the world remotely related to mountain bikes, our ad could potentially show up. With the phrase, which is what we're going to actually start with, some sort of combination of the words that we're targeting has to be in the search in order for us to show up. And then exact, it has to be word for word. Now we're going to use phrase and exact because we've just personally found with our own ads and our clients' ads that when you use broad keywords, you get a lot of excess or trash traffic, right? So we really do want to be specific. So again, I'll link up in the cards in the description to a video that takes a much deeper dive. And I'll also link up a video that goes through Google Keywords Planner if you want to get more advanced than the template you have right here. So if you're a local services-based business, you're going to use your location plus the service you provide. And then you're also going to have an ad group that's your location plus your profession. And then for e-commerce, you're going to have shopping around style keywords. So people who are looking for the best or something on sale. And then you can have general keywords that relate to your product or service. Although I definitely don't recommend starting with these ones. You'd only use that if none of the first three ad groups actually worked out very well. So let's go back over to our interface. I'm going to be searching for clients for a PPC management agency in Seattle. So we're going to have phrase match and we're going to have exact match. So you can see here for our phrases, we have Seattle, PPC management, AdWords, SEM marketing, and then the same with exact match. Now, what's important here to remember is Seattle PPC management with the brackets around it, that's an exact match, which means someone has to type in that exact phrase, not a word less or a word more, in order for our ad to show up. Whereas if we look at the phrase match version, where it's just Seattle PPC management with the quotations, well, as long as some combination of those words are in the search, we're going to show up. So it's a lot broader. We're going to get a lot more traffic for those phrases than we are for the exact. And you're just going to find after a week or two which version of your keywords are actually going to perform better. Also on the right-hand side, after you drop in some of these, you're going to start to get some suggestions. But really, you just want to ignore these. Use the keyword planner later because they're going to give you very, very broad suggestions. Something like paid search or PPC advertising, that doesn't really represent someone who's looking to purchase a service, right? They're not looking for a product. We have no idea what they're looking for. So as you use your keywords, make sure that whatever keywords you choose, they actually represent someone who wants to purchase your product or service. They're not just looking around, and avoid how-to phrases at all costs. Those almost never work out well. So we're going to go ahead and create another ad group, and we're going to drop in our location plus profession here. So we're going to do the exact same thing, Seattle PPC agency, Seattle marketing agency, and then you'll see for our exact match, we actually have the same phrase, but we're switching around the words because we're telling Google that we need these exact words in the phrase in order to show up. Now, technically, you don't have to do this, although I've run enough campaigns to see that sometimes just switching the order of the words in the exact match actually gets me different results. So I just recommend taking the extra 30 seconds to do it, even though Google says that you shouldn't do it and you should get the same results. Oddly enough, we sometimes get different results, which is weird, even though it should be the same. So anyway, again, it's going to give you some ideas. Just ignore them. They're going to be way too broad. So the last one we're going to do here is going to be shopping around. So this is going to be keywords like the best or the top. And if you're doing e-commerce, this is going to be where you're going to put on sale style keywords. And then of course, the only thing we have left, we're going to ignore the ideas again, is the bid. So I recommend starting at $2. Now, if you've gone through Keyword Planner and they tell you you have to pay $4 or $5 for your keywords, that's okay. After a couple days, Google's going to tell you the exact number you have to bid in order for your keywords to work. And you're going to find that some keywords might wind up being just too expensive. But I'm just going to go through here, add each one of them at $2, and then go ahead and click on Save and Continue, because real data is always better than projections. You can always lower your bids later. You can always increase your bids later, but there's no point in starting out at a higher price because you don't know if the keyword's worth it to you yet or not. So let's go ahead and save and continue. We're going back to our diagram here. We've completed our ad groups and our keywords. Again, I'll link up in the cards in the description to a video that goes through Keyword Planner and some other tools to help you with your keyword research. Here we're just being quick and dirty. And now it's time for our ads. So we're going to make a total of 2 ads, and we're going to use those 2 ads across the 3 ad groups we just created. So inside of our interface here, you'll see we're going to have our final URL, our headlines 1 and 2. 3 is probably not going to be used. It's still pretty much in beta. Anytime you see something new inside of the Google Ads interface, it means that, hey, we're testing something and we may or may not use this. And then of course, we're going to have our description lines 1 and 2, 2 also being new. So if you're wondering what the heck to put in your ad copy, go ahead and take one of your keywords, make sure you're in the location that you're targeting, or you use a VPN and you're in a private browsing mode so you can change your IP location, and go ahead and search your target keyword and see what types of ads show up. So here, essentially what you want to see is what is being offered, what kinds of features or benefits or buzzwords are being used to get someone to click on their ads. Now, I'm not saying copy word for word. Go ahead and look for similarities and differences in the ads and then use that as a springboard to create your own. Again, after a week or 2 of traffic, you're going to have all the data you need to figure out which type of ad is going to perform better. And if you want more guidance on how to write your ads, check out the longer version of this tutorial where we take a much deeper dive on ad copy. Here, I've just gone ahead and copied some of the elements that I saw in our examples honest PPC management, first month free. Obviously, if you can't give the first month for free or you can't do a huge discount, don't do that. Actually, I have a note on the discount in a second. We see PPC optimization experts, that's probably not gonna show up. And then we have, if you don't get more leads and sales, you pay nothing, work with managers who care. And this is simply based upon the ads we're looking at here and taking some of the elements or what's being communicated and including it in our ad copy here. Now, something that's really cool is with the display paths, the display URL paths, this is a great opportunity to talk about limited time or discount. You also, especially if you're in e-commerce, you'll see some ads say up to 60 or 70% off, products. And you might be wondering, how do they do that? Well, what they do is they choose a product that almost nobody wants and they mark it down really, really low so that they could ethically say that they have things up to 70 or 68% off. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at other ads and you're wondering how on earth could they profitably do this? Normally they just have one or two throwaway products that either they don't care about or nobody else cares about, and they mark deeply so that they can ethically put that huge discount in their headline. I'll leave it up to you whether or not you want to follow suit. And then we're going to go ahead and create another ad. So we'll click done and create next ad. We'll create one more ad, just change up the headline. Everything else can stay the same because you really just want to test the headline. The headline is going to be the most important part of this process. And this is actually a pretty ninja thing you can do. If you use these types of brackets and then put in keyword, what Google's going to do is they'll dynamically insert the keyword someone searched into the headline of your ad. As long as the characters fit, most of the time it will. And what this does is essentially enters the conversation of your ideal customers that's going on inside of your ideal customer's head. And this can be really powerful because when someone goes and types in PPC Management Seattle and then the exact phrase they typed in shows up as the title of the ad, statistically, they're more likely to click it. So this is just something you can do quick and dirty to make a really good split test. And of course, honest PPC management, what we're doing here is we're telling Google, hey, if the keyword doesn't fit in the character count, go ahead and use the original headline we had anyway. So now we're going to go ahead and click done and create. It's going to ask you to create a responsive ad. Please skip this. This is something that Google is beta testing, and having multiple headlines and giving Google control over testing your headlines is almost never a good idea. So we're just going to go ahead and click cancel, and we're actually going to skip ad creation for the next two ad groups because we can easily copy and paste these to our other two ad groups. So we've only made two ads in this interface. We've gone ahead and skipped the next two ad groups, and we'll just go ahead and click save and continue to our campaign. So here we have our three ad groups, and only one of our ad groups has some ads. So if we go back to our diagram, we've created our campaign, we've put together our three ad groups here, and then we've created our two ads. But as you can see, we have two more ads to go. So let's go ahead, go back to our interface, we'll click on ads and extensions, and then we will select all two ads we have. We'll go ahead and copy them, and you'll see at the bottom a notification to let us know that they have in fact been copied. And then we're going to X out of this blue bar here and click on paste. And then you'll get a list of all the campaigns you have. So you're going to want to select the campaign we literally just created. We see search offer number 1, and then we're going to select the two ad groups that don't have the ads yet. Remember, in the previous interface, we only created two ads. So we're going to select the two ad groups, talking over myself, the two ad groups that have no ads here, and then we're going to select done. And if ad already exists, yes, that's okay. And we're going to go ahead and click on paste. So now what we've done is we've taken the two ads that we made and we pasted them into the other two ad groups. Now, if I went through that a little quickly, I get excited sometimes. Timestamp table of contents, you can always go back and use the YouTube feature to slow down because I know I do talk fast at times. But with that, you have your three ad groups and you have the same two ads in all of your campaigns. And because in our campaign settings, we're forcing Google to evenly rotate, after a week or two, you're going to know which one of these ads is working and you'll be able to come back and start to optimize. And so with that, we have our entire campaign set up and ready to go. The only thing we have to do is wait for some traffic to come in, right? So let's say you're a week down the road. There are only two really columns you need to look at when you're analyzing your campaign results. You're going to want to look at your click-through rate and you're going to want to look at your cost per click. Now, with your click-through rate, for the first month or so, your goal should be, how do I improve my click-through rate? So you're going to want to go through your keywords and see which ones are getting good click-through rates. You want to leave those on. If you see a keyword that's getting a bad click-through rate, then leave those off. Now, what's good and what's bad, that's pretty much going to be very subjective based upon your results. So if you're seeing keywords that are having 3 and 4% click-through rates, and then you see another keyword that has 1, well, the 3 and 4 is good and the 1 is bad, right? So you're just gonna have to come up with your own benchmarks. I really wish I could give you a hard and fast rule, but it is different for everyone. You're going to want to do the same thing with your ads. You're gonna look at your 2 ads, and whichever ad has the better click-through rate, you keep. And then whichever ad has the worst click-through rate, you turn off. And then you create another one and you let it run, and then whichever one has a better click-through rate, you leave on, and you turn off, and then you just kind of rotate through your ads indefinitely. And that will become it kind of becomes a game after a while. You see which ad is going to perform better. Now with your cost per click, the only thing you need to do is just keep an eye on your costs and make sure that specific keywords aren't draining too much of your budget. So for example, if you have a keyword that is getting you 5% click-through rate, seems to be doing awesome, but it costs 3 times as much as everything else, well, even if it's performing well, it just might be outside of your budget. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that not too much of your budget is going to one keyword. And that is all there is to it to setting up your first Google Ads campaign. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive tutorials just like this one. Make sure you check out those links in the description to help you with the rest of your marketing process. And as always, keep building the business you love.